Léa, thank you so much for joining me. So first of all, how long has your family been in the wine industry?
Oh, my family is involved in the wine industry for a long time because company has been created in 1885, so it's a long time. With my sister, we are the fifth generation.
Wow, that's a lot. And did you always think you joined the family business, or was there something else that you thought, well, I quite fancy that?
Uh, I joined the family business 3 years ago. So it was not my first objective because I was in Paris, I was in the engineering industry. So it was not my first idea, but I think my roots, my values, my history in the region, the wines is the most important. So I decided to come back in my native region to work in the wine industry with my family.
Very nice. Yeah, well, I did engineering as well and ended up in the wine trade. It doesn't seem like the logical progression, but it certainly perhaps a little bit nicer to work with an agricultural product and family and friends than maybe bits and pieces.
Yes. It's a big work that we try to have in the region because we work on the volcanic soil. The first things to tell on for the Auvergne region is the volcanoes. We are on the big chain of 80 volcanoes. It is listed at the World Heritage of UNESCO. So it's the largest and oldest chain of volcano in Europe. And our terroir is very unique, made of basalt, pepperite, pozzolana, and pierre ponce.
I think perhaps the IGP Puy de Dôme in general is probably one of the biggest undiscovered gems of France. I don't think it would be the first region that people think of. So I think, as you've already mentioned, it's that very volcanic region. Where do you think it fits within the wine market in France and perhaps then the rest of the world?
It's a shame that people don't think about the IGP in the first time when they are looking for wines, but I hope that it will change in few years. It's my objective, it's my work. I try to develop the understanding and the know of volcanic wines and Auvergne volcanic wines in France and in the international part. I think that elements that can that is very different for clients and people. The volcanic soil brings taste and particularity very different. For example, we work mainly with Pinot Noir and Gamay for the red wine and Chardonnay for the white wine, but the soil brings something new, something different. And we don't talk about just Pinot Noir, but we talk about volcanic Pinot Noir, and the taste is very different. So I think it can be surprising and they can be very different that we used to taste. And I think it's also the taste of many people because we have a lot of minerality thanks to the soils, a lot of freshness thanks to the altitude. We are between 300 and 600 meter up to the sea level. And the vines are very greedy thanks to the sun. We have hillsides very sunny during summer, so we have a lot of fruits.
Yeah, so I think it ticks a lot of boxes in terms of the way that the wine world is moving and tastes worldwide are moving. Volcanic soils and wines made from grapes grown on volcanic soils have certainly got a lot of reputation in the last few years, as has high altitude wines as well. So I think you're certainly ticking a lot of boxes. And one thing I've noticed a lot of is people are looking less towards the grape variety, but more towards the style of wine that is being made. And I think, as you say, that the freshness and minerality that you derive from your Pinot Noir and Gamay for the reds is certainly a style that people are looking for.
And it's quite original because we can taste differently some grape varieties that we can already know, like Pinot Noir or Gamay, but with a volcanic touch, and we try to work this volcanic touch. So the objective is just to make wines very representative of the terroir, of the region. So we don't try to have too much things in trance or vinification strategies that can hide the volcanic soil. We try to have authenticity and real volcanic, Auvergne volcanic wines.
So volcanicity comes first, and grape variety second. Are there any other grape varieties other than Gamay, Pinot Noir, and Chardonnay that you think you'd like to work with? Anything that really sort of stands out? I know, obviously, you're restricted as to the grape varieties that you can use within the region, but if there's anything that you would like to work with? Obviously, there are lots of different volcanic wine regions around the world using different grape varieties. Have you ever been tempted to bring any of those grape varieties into the Puy de Dôme?
Yes, of course. We try we try some grape variety in our terroir. For the moment, we just have the Syrah, different. For the AOP, we just have Pinot Noir and Gamay, so it's not very a large choice of grape variety. So we have 100% Pinot Noir, 100% Gamay, and 50-50 with Gamay and Pinot Noir. And for the white wine, we have Chardonnay. So of course, we have tried new grape variety, and we try every year new grape variety. But for the moment, we just keep the result for us. Maybe we can have some surprise in the next years. We have two different grape variety. One is the Syrah for the red wines, and Pinot Gris for the white wines also. And we can say that a lot of grape variety match in the volcanic soil, because the volcanic soil brings a lot of minerality and freshness. So we can have some surprise thanks to Syrah. Normally Syrah is very hot, it's very round, it's very rich, and our Syrah in the volcanic soil, for example, is very mineral, fresh, very different.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's it. But I think going back to that, the thing being the style of the wine rather than the grape variety itself, and I think so. It's so I think there's a big story happening in the wine industry, which is selling the style that is volcanic wines. Where have you traveled to in the world where people really love that story, or where's your favorite place that you sell your wines that you've seen that then latch on to that volcanic nature and the volcanic style?
I don't have one favorite place, in fact, because and if I have to choose, it's United Kingdom. No, we have a lot of favorite place to go. I think that it's very sympathetic to sell wines to people. They are open-minded about different wine, different grape variety, different kind of work. For example, in some countries, people just like big known in the wine industry, grape variety very known, a style of wine very clear. It's not very fun for me. I prefer to go in some countries where people like to discover new wine, discover new style, discover a new region, discover new things. They are very with a lot of curiosity. I think it's very sympathetic, and I think in United Kingdom we have a lot of clients. They are aware to try new style of wine, and it's very sympathetic.
I think we're very spoilt for choice in the UK in terms of the different styles of wine that we produce. I imagine it must be quite hard selling Côte d'Auvergne Gamay to Beaujolais or Burgundy, for example. It's very tricky to sell wine in that your wines in their region. But talking of selling wine around the world and matching with food, is there any what's your local cuisine in the Côte d'Auvergne and anywhere else in the world where you think your wines, the cuisine really matches the style of your wines?
I think we have different kind of wine, and they can match with a lot of kind of food. We are in the region of mountain, so we have a local tradition, very I don't know, very heavy.
Quite heavy and stew, lots of stews, lots of rich food. My favorite style.
Very rich. So with a lot of cheese, a lot of potatoes, a lot of meat. We are in the region of agricultural, so it's very vast. We have a lot of cow, a little of pork, a little cheese, a lot of. So it's very rich. I think my wines can match with this kind of food because we have a lot of freshness, but in the same times we can also associate this wine with different kind of food, more modern food, like sushi with white wine, because we have a huge salinity on the wines, as in the white wines and the red wines. So we can match with fish, with sushi, for example, and the red wines are quite spicy. In the volcanic soil, it brings different taste. And for example, it's peppery, spicy. So we can match with meats, pizza, with grilled meats, for example.
Yeah.
Very
perfect
well.
Barbecue wine for the.
Yes.
Yeah. Very good. And so obviously we said classic question is, if you weren't making wine or involved in the wine trade, what would you be doing? So engineering, obviously a thing. Is there any specific engineering practices you've brought into the winery that help make the whole process a little bit more rigorous and efficient? Is that something you've brought into the family business, taking engineering outside into wine?
It's not so easy to work for engineering and after wine, and in the same time we can use some competencies of the engineering in the wines industry, because the wine industry for me, it's my story, it's my family. So I grew up in this kind of environment with the words, with the taste to taste wines and so on. So it's not very unknown for me. It's something that I know, but from the engineering parts, I bring, I think, the process, the more I don't know, the more
structured, much more structure.
Things, yes.
Yeah, it's the balance between that sort of know-how that you've been brought up with and the structure put in place for engineering. That's it. I think it does work really, really well. So what have you got a memory of a vintage growing up that you thought, or a point in time when a year that you were maybe helping in the vineyards or helping in the winery, and you thought that year, that vintage, it stands out in my mind? Is there, when you were growing up, that you thought, oh, this was the wine industry is really quite fun?
For me, it's very short, because I began to work in the company in 2017. So it's quite short for my own experience of vinification and so on. But my most amazing year, I think it was 2018, because it was fabulous in terms of quality. It was amazing. We had a lot of sun. It was amazing in terms of quality, but in the same time we had a full harvest, and it was the first time for many years that we had a full harvest. And in the cave, all the teams were not used to have the full harvest. So
Wow.
it was a game of find places in the cave, try to make the vinification in the good time, try to harvest the good parcel in the good time also. So it was like a big eruption.
They had to juggling tank space, which was never a problem before. That, yeah, I can imagine that it's everything comes in at once. It must be quite tricky. So, do you have a desert island wine? I mean, everyone in the wine trade has been sort of asked that question, and then they palm it off, saying, "No, I don't have a specific desert island wine." But what's your best shot at an answer?
I think I have to choose one of my wines, of course. Okay. And I think I will choose one wine called La Légendaire.
Okay.
La Légendaire is a family wines. It comes from old history in the vineyard. It was my step grandfather. Okay. My grandfather, and he used to go in mountain with some bottles of wines, and when he not drink it, he put it directly in the mountain, and it came brings the bottle 1 year later, and he said that the wine was exceptional when it stayed in mountain. So we have decided to create one cuvée called La Légendaire. It's one of our better plots of Gamay and Pinot Noir and Chardonnay for the white wine. Mm-hmm. And it is aged during 12 months in barrel. And after we put all the bottle in mountain at 1,200 meters of altitude.
Wow.
So it's quite high. Yeah. And it aged during 1 season. So we put the bottle in force around, and we go to put them of the mountain in March, April. So La Légendaire, the legendary. Thanks to my grandfather.
Yeah. Wow. And so is it intended to be drunk in the year that it comes out of the mountain, or is it to be drunk then and aged further? Is it just drunk for that in that year?
When we drink this wine, we have to wait for 2 years, because 1 year in barrel and 1 year in mountain.
Yeah.
And the objective is to keep this bottle for some years, because they are better when we can wet. But on a desert island, I think I can.
That would be that one. And I imagine did you pull 2000? You'll be next March pulling out the 2018 vintage of La Légendaire.
Exactly.
So I get that. That would be I imagine that vintage and that wine together will be the perfect combination.
Exactly. So
hopefully everything will be open and you'll be able to enjoy it with family and friends at that point.
We have all the friends or clients or ambassador, or it's a very a friend day.
I imagine so.
It's very just sympathetic. We eat, we drink, and it's very, very sympathetic day.
Brilliant. Léa, thank you so much for joining me. It's been great chatting to you. I'm sure we'll talk again soon.
Yes, thank you very much, Elliot, and have a good time.
And you.